Greetings, mortals, peers, and queers. President Biden leads charge to protect LGBTQ rights as GOP legislates culture wars ahead of 2024. Let's get into it. 2 decades after Republicans stoked fears of gay marriage to drive conservative voters to the polls, another fight is brewing over LGBTQ rights as President Joe Biden gears up for what is expected to be a brutal re-election campaign. But this time, things are different. While George W. Bush and other Republicans campaigned in 2004 against granting same-sex couples the right to marry, Biden, a Democrat, is siding with those who advocate expanding or protecting the rights of LGBTQ Americans. For weeks, Biden has spoken out against the tsunami of anti-LGBTQ legislation flowing from the GOP-led states. Quote, "What is going on in Florida, as my mother would say, is close to sinful," Biden said during an appearance at Comedy Central's The Daily Show last month. He was referring to the new state laws enacted by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis and the GOP-led legislature to ban that bans the discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in classrooms, and other proposals under the consideration to the rollback of the rights of LGBTQ Americans. For Biden, the decision to condemn the attacks against LGBTQ Americans isn't about politics, but is instead a question of fairness and morality. The White House aides insist that Biden has a long record of supporting gay rights, even if that meant disagreeing with President Barack Obama when he was vice president, and is regarded as the most LGBTQ-friendly president in history, despite being a decades-long moderate. I actually like this. This gives me a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism. Because the GOP are so fanatically and viciously and hatefully anti-queer, anti-LGBTQ, and anti-trans, even Biden being a moderate, just being like a middle-of-the-road politician Democrat, this will force him to actually take a hard stance and be like, skinning trans people alive for public displays is actually a bad thing. I'm going to come down and say that, no, maybe you shouldn't do that, The GOP being so extreme, demons in skin suits, out for the blood of many as possible, is actually going to force Biden into taking a stance and being something good. We know that polling in the United States actually sides with queer people. It was Pew Research that said like 60% of Americans are in favor of LGBTQ rights and the protections there with it. Now you get some variants when you get further into the weeds of trans people in sports. That's a more like niche issue, but broadly the discussions of sexual orientation and the Florida's like don't say gay bill and anti-drag discrimination bills, you get a bunch of those. The average American is against those broadly, and the Democrats especially, even though Biden's a middle of the road guy, he is forced to stand against that, and that leaps us forward in queer rights, as we actually have someone fighting for us in the White House in the highest office in all the land, and it's going to become a cornerstone, or at least it's going to become one of the major points of his 2024 re-election campaign, and by extension will become the rallying cry for the rest of the Democratic Party. This gives me hope because I think the Republicans are losing on this point. I think they've overextended. I think they've overestimated themselves, and they're losing. I'll leave it there. Follow for more daily videos, subscribe for more, and with that, I wish you all a good evening.